Welcome to Whispers to My Future Self, where warmth meets wisdom. I'm your host, Courtney Raquel, extending a cozy invitation for you to grab your favorite brew, settle into a comfy spot, and embark on a journey to become the lead character of your story. Join me as we prioritize your happiness and embrace life on your terms without reservation. Hey guys, as I'm recording this, it is Monday morning. I'm a little late on getting my episode released today because it was my birthday over the weekend and I just didn't get the episode complete in time, but I'm going to be releasing it this afternoon. So I was thinking, as we move into the new year, I wanted to talk about having dreams or goals. It's been on my mind as I've begun creating my podcast. Have you ever started to think about something you want to only never follow through with it? I want to work through the pitfalls of negative thinking, and I want to redefine success while also empowering ourselves to find happiness in each moment. So what I'm thinking is we need to shift our perspective, let go of attachment to outcomes, and trust the unfolding of life's journey. We know that there are so many approaches to tackling our desires. I'm going to give you 5 things that I've found to be important. 1 is don't shoot yourself down before you begin. 2, let go of needing to be perfect. 3, don't run away at the first uncomfortable moment or quote unquote failure. 4, take small steps compared to big and celebrate each step. And the last one, we shouldn't focus too heavily on the destination, but instead enjoy the journey. We need to stop putting so much pressure on achieving the goal. Some of these suggestions might be a new perspective for you, and some may be confirmation of what you've heard or thought yourself before. I think either way, it's great to spend time reflecting on them. If you find yourself getting hung up on some of your goals or not following through on what you want. Some things I have no trouble getting or achieving. I decide I want it and that's it. It's simple and I follow through and I get it. But there's other times that I have a desire and it barely makes it any further than that. And I know this seems like a very simple, obvious statement, but don't shoot yourself down before you begin. This is something that I've done at times. I was even thinking the other day about my podcast and how excited I am to be doing this. However, at the very first thought of making a podcast, and there's even been moments after, like when I posted the second episode of my podcast, where I had negative inner thoughts creep in. I would think things like, why do I think I could do a podcast? What if no one else finds what I share valuable? What if I don't have anything special to offer against the hundreds of thousands of already established podcasts? What if no one listens? How do I find my people? And I sat there and I acknowledged that I was having these thoughts. And I worked on quieting these voices because I thought it's important to remember, don't lose sight on why you wanted to do this. Don't shoot yourself down before you even get to try and see how it goes. Just enjoy the process. Enjoy making it. Have fun with it. The rest will come with time. And I remind myself I need to have patience and trust that all my concerns and questions will be answered as I learn and grow and proceed with making the podcast. I don't have the answers to all of my nagging, worrying thoughts, and entertaining them isn't doing me any good. So this podcast has been a great reminder to myself that I'm just beginning. I need to let things flow and give it a real shot. Each time these voices surface, I realize that I'm doing it and I stop and take a minute, I take a deep breath, and I really think about it. I tell myself this isn't something I need to focus on. Just keep making the podcast, be yourself, have a good time, and the rest will unfold. If I start to worry about all of these questions, I'll never even get to see how it goes. Maybe my podcast will be a hit and maybe it won't, but it doesn't hurt to try and see what happens. I don't know about you, but I notice the moment I decide something or even start to dream of something, I pretty much instantly start to think of all the negatives, the way it could go wrong, all the obstacles I may encounter, thinking how hard it might be, and all the ways that it might fail. I think I did this because I felt like I was being realistic. I wanted to consider all obstacles and be best prepared. And when we set goals, it's natural to consider potential obstacles or challenges that may arise along the way. But now I see how fixating on the negative outcomes can likely lead to a self-fulfilling prophecy in the worst way. We have to remember our minds are very powerful, and what we focus on tends to manifest in our reality. We don't want to shoot ourselves down before we even start. We know that worrying about failure or setbacks can create self-doubt, which leads to lack of motivation, and in a lot of cases leads to us finding proof as to why we shouldn't even try. Deep down, we know this, but why do we then entertain the negative thoughts anyway? Not to mention, the negative mindset, it robs us of the joy and excitement that should accompany pursuing our goals. Instead of embracing the journey with enthusiasm and optimism, we're weighed down by fear and uncertainty. So here's the mindset we want to embody. It is not my responsibility to answer all of these worries and concerns. It's my job to set the goal and intention and then just enjoy the journey. We don't have to have all the answers. We aren't supposed to. I believe if you don't stress and worry over things that haven't even happened and just have fun, you'll be guided down the right path. And that path may not even be what you expected, but I guarantee you that you'll love it no matter what if you have this belief. It's all about shifting our perspective. Rather than dwelling on the way things could go wrong, let's focus on how we can make them go right. I really want you to think about cultivating a mindset of positivity and proactive problem solving. Challenges may arise, but they're an opportunity for us to grow and learn. If we reframe our approach, we can empower ourselves to overcome obstacles and achieve success with confidence and grace. Why do we feel the need to have everything figured out before we even begin? We're in a world obsessed with flawless outcomes and immaculate beginnings, and it's easy to fall into the trap of perfectionism, which we often find ourselves paralyzed by the fear of being imperfect, waiting for the stars to align perfectly before we dare to take the first step forward towards our dreams. But here's the truth. Perfection is the killer of dreams. I know that social media gives the illusion of perfection. We see people's best moments and where they are now. And for me, I notice I always want to be at that level instantly. But think about it. That person may have been building their podcast for over 5 years. Why do I think I'm going to be at their level when I'm just releasing my first episode? Now that I've realized how this view is not sensible, I'm trying to work on reprogramming that, needing to be perfect from step one. And so when I notice I'm thinking this way, I remind myself that I have no idea where this person started, what they've worked through and learned. And I tell myself, you don't start at the finish line. You learn and grow and improve, and you get better over time, just like they did. And it's so important to remind yourself of that. There's no such thing as perfect. It's an illusion that keeps us trapped in a cycle of planning and procrastinating, waiting for that ideal moment that never arrives. The pursuit of perfection, it robs us of the opportunity to embrace the messy and perfect journey of growth and learning. There's been countless times where my fear of failing has held me back from starting on the path towards my goals. Even with creating this podcast, it's truly tested my struggle with needing to be perfect. In the past, I was that girl that if I wasn't perfect and I wasn't immediately a complete success at what I was trying to do, my full steam ahead attitude seemed to fizzle out pretty quickly. And I didn't even realize exactly what I was doing at the time. But it's not going to be perfect. And I've come to understand that perfection is not the goal. It's the process of learning, adapting, and growing that truly matters. Mistakes and failures are not a sign of weakness. They are essential stepping stones on the path to mastering what we want. Here's what I suggest. It's time to break free from the need of perfection and just take action. We may stumble and we probably will falter along the way, but each misstep brings us closer to what we want. We need to be willing to try, fail, learn, try again, and repeat. So instead of endlessly planning and researching, which I am known for, I just jumped in and started the podcast. And I remind myself, I will get better as I go. It's through action that I'll gain experience and insight. Life doesn't come with a manual, and we can't possibly predict every obstacle that lies ahead. Instead of waiting for that perfect moment, we need to embrace the uncertainty and trust in our ability to figure things out along the way. I've honestly already felt so proud of myself for pushing through those initial feelings of needing to be perfect and just launching my podcast. Now I get to watch myself grow and get better over time. And how rewarding is that? Which this leads me into my next tip. Celebrate the small steps along the way. In the pursuit of our dreams and goals, it's easy to get caught up in the grand vision of the end result. We set our sights on reaching it as quickly as possible, but in the eagerness to reach the top, we often overlook the importance of the journey itself, rushing through our life yet again. But there's so much significance of taking small, deliberate steps along the way. It should be about breaking down our goals into manageable tasks and focusing on making progress one step at a time. By taking small and consistent actions, it allows us to not get overwhelmed, and it also reminds ourselves it won't be perfect and it won't be done all at once. It's going to take time. For me, I've always been an all or nothing type of person. I never wanted to take baby steps. I wanted to make the changes and accomplish the goals instantly. Just one big step, all in. Except that hasn't been working for me. I either get too overwhelmed or I don't get very far and I burn out quickly. I've heard over and over again how little steps, that's the way to go. And I would tell my friend and we'd laugh because we knew we are both the type that is all or nothing. And yeah, it sounded like a great idea. One step at a time, what a great approach. I remember even last month, I brought up the idea of us needing to take small steps again. And we knew that approach was better, but we admitted to ourselves that it was hard to change our mind. So here's what I've been doing. I just keep trying. You know, they say how fake it till you make it. That's what I feel like I was doing. And finally, it seemed to stick a little more and a little more. Have you ever tried something and it doesn't work, and then you give it a break and then your mind seems refreshed and ready to go again? That's how I've been each time I've tried to make small steps. And if I wasn't able to change my mindset, I'd step away from it and I would give it some time and then try again. So recently, I've come with a clear mind, a mind willing to try baby steps, and I was able to take small steps towards some of my desires and goals that I've been laying out for this year. And I'll tell you, such a game changer. It's almost funny, but in the same light it makes sense. I'm seeing more results by taking smaller steps than I did when I was trying to change everything at once. Instead of being burnt out or feeling overwhelmed and not even starting, I've started and I'm seeing progress, which is bringing excitement to me, and it no longer feels like I need to force myself. So here's what I want to suggest. If you're struggling with setting small steps, keep trying. If you're anything like me, it'll take some time to accept this new approach, but let your mind get refreshed. Think about how your approach isn't currently working for you, and what do you have to lose to try a new way? I used to say what I have to lose is time. I want this now, I want to achieve this now, but think about all the times I didn't get my desire or goal because I was burnt out or never even started because I wanted to rush to the finish line. So what really is robbing me more? So I say, give it a try. Try the small steps. And what I'm really finding helpful is adding these new steps into routines I'm already consistent with. For example, every morning I brush my teeth. I wanted to add in a facial routine to my day. And now every morning when I brush my teeth, I have my products sitting out next to my toothbrush. This way it's convenient and I won't forget to do it. This has been extremely helpful. and accompanied by how much I am loving how my face feels refreshed and awake in the morning. Now I love doing it, and it's routine for me. What I believe is extremely important is celebrating each milestone along the way. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a cause for celebration. Celebrating each step fuels our motivation and reinforces our belief in ourselves. It reminds us that we are making progress. It teaches us to appreciate the journey and find joy in the process rather than fixating slowly on the end result. So once we get past the initial need for perfection and fast forwarding to the finish line and actually beginning our journey, what sometimes I experience is the feeling of being out of my comfort zone with something new. We can't give up or lose steam when feeling uncomfortable. Otherwise, we'll never experience the truly amazing things in life. There have been moments where I felt uncomfortable while starting my podcast, like when I replayed my first podcast episode and it just felt really strange listening to myself talk. I started to have some self-doubt because it was something that I wasn't used to. Or when I launched the second episode of my podcast, I didn't get as much feedback and traction as I felt like my first episode did. Now, granted, I gave it only a few hours of releasing the second episode before the doubt crept in. And I started to feel a little deflated and thought, well, maybe after people listened to my first episode, they decided they didn't want to listen again. I started to have some negative thoughts about it, but then I stopped myself. And I thought, this is the beginning, and I'm certainly going to encounter moments where I'm uncomfortable and moments of doubt. It's not always going to feel easy, and I see a lot of us experience the first speed bump in the road, and we pretty much give up because we let the negative voices take over. But we need to accept that we won't always get it right the first time, and that's okay. So here's what I suggest. We need to have unwavering faith. You need to believe it'll work out even when you may have not had a successful launch or something doesn't go right in your eyes. When you hit a bump in the road, or maybe someone's being negative about your desire or goal, or you experience people doubting you, you just need to take a minute to slow down and remind yourself to continue believing you can do this. It's easy when we're first starting to have faith in our goal, but don't lose faith when things don't go your way or you feel uncomfortable. We need to continue to believe in ourselves and keep going. I heard this quote last week, and I thought this is a great reminder how to view our desires and goals. Happiness is a journey, not a destination. For a long time, it seemed to me that life was about to begin, real life, but there was always some obstacle in the way, something to be gotten through, some unfinished business, time still to be served, a debt to be paid. At last, it dawned on me that these obstacles were a part of my life. This perspective has helped me to see there's no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. So treasure every moment you have and remember time waits for no one. I absolutely love this quote. I've felt this way before, and I've seen a lot of people around me feel this as well, feeling like life would really start, like we would truly be happy once this is accomplished, once we got started on a certain point in our life, once we reached a certain status. But we put too much pressure and expectations on goals we set, on dreams we have. There's so much focus on the destination and the goal, believing that once we achieve this, we'll truly be happy. And it can start to become stressful and no longer fun. Do you ever feel like the more you want something, the bigger the goal is, the more you feel you need it, the more emotional and attached you get to it? Have you ever told yourself, if I don't get this, I'll never be truly happy? You start to become so fixated that it's putting so much power into this one desire that it's hard to detach from it. It's hard to imagine being happy without it. When you feel this way, you're thinking you need external circumstances to align in order to live a happy life. But this isn't true. We don't want to put our life's happiness and self-worth into one thing. What we need to do is realize that the power is within us regardless of any outside circumstances. It allows us to tap into those feelings now and remind us that we alone are in control of how we feel. We don't want to be in a place of scarcity or fear that if we don't get this, we won't be happy. We need to let go of that attachment and enjoy the ride wherever it takes us. Let's decide to feel happy now. If you find yourself lacking because you haven't achieved these desires, stop and look around. Go over what you're grateful for now in life. Remind yourself of all the amazing aspects of your life. That always helps bring me to a higher level of happiness, remembering how great my life is right now. For me, embracing the notion that happiness is found along the journey has been a game changer. Instead of constantly chasing after the next big thing, I've learned to appreciate the small victories, the everyday joys, and the lessons learned through both triumphs and setbacks. What I do now is I trust the universe to deliver. I've worked on not forcing things or becoming so fixated on one specific way of things happening. If it's meant to be, it'll be. And if it passes me by, then something better is coming. Are you coming from a place of desperation? Do you believe you need one certain thing to be happy? If so, release that. You'll still be happy. You don't need that one thing. Let yourself experience happiness through every moment because this is life. Your life is happening right now. It's already begun, and I think it's so important to remind ourselves that we're in control of our thoughts and feelings. We can choose happiness now, so let's embrace the journey. Let's savor the twists and the turns, the highs and the lows, and all the beautiful moments in between. Because in the end, it's not about reaching the destination, it's about finding joy, gratitude, and fulfillment along the way. I hope you join me back here next week. In the meantime, I would love if you follow and share with a friend who you think would resonate with my podcast, and if you feel inclined to, leave a review as well. You can find me on Instagram at Whispers to My Future Self, and until next Monday, I hope you have a great week.